Thank you for joining us on this replay of SVELC's Leadership Academy from June of 2020, featuring Mallika Rao. Over the last 10 years, Mallika has successfully risen through the ranks in both large and small organizations as an individual contributor, tech lead, and now as an engineering manager at a startup. Mallika believes that her team and people are the company's first customers and walks this talk every day. She's helped scale the team in number and culture, as well as the product and revenue and customer happiness, utilizing one core value: servant leadership. In this talk, Mallika addresses what servant leadership means in the context of tech and why it's an important mindset. She also provides actionable tactics to bring it into daily practice so you can build a high-performance, results-oriented culture. Mallika staunchly believes that servant leadership is that unique style of leadership which not only makes the team more productive, but also helps them bring their whole selves to work every day. This video begins right as we are transitioning from the networking aspects of the live meeting into Mallika's program.
But at the same time, my nature was very much results oriented. I love tech, I love backend systems. So I felt like these two schools of thoughts were a little contradictory. It was becoming hard for me to practice this on a daily basis. So, and that's how over the last few years, I've been thinking about it. I've been spending a lot of time critically dedicating some thought processes for this topic. And that's what I want to talk about today. I'm super excited to start this off. Just to get this out of the way, who am I? I think of myself as a hyper-realist. I really love to set big goals, big dreams, deterministically go after them, put in all the work that is required, simplify, break them down into logical units, but also never lose touch of the reality. Keep it realistic, keep the approach realistic, so that I can measure my success. I practice this as much as possible in my personal and professional life. I have my master's and bachelor's in computer science. I went to North Carolina State University for my master's. I worked at Cisco, where I did a lot of C programming, firmware programming, a lot of low-level stuff. And that really made me appreciate the details about working with the hardware and software and marrying those concepts together. I worked for startups, some which worked, some which did not work. The ones that did not work really battle tested me, made me resilient, and really taught me the value of people. Because every time there was a problem or it was a tricky situation, it was always the people who got me that relief and got me out of that situation. And now I work at Abstra, where I have seen tremendous growth, not only for my career, but also as a product. We went from 0 customers to a stage where we have revenue, and it's been a fantastic journey to be part of that process at a startup. 3 things to know that I would like to share from my personal life is I love eating yogurt. I have a very low reference for yogurt. Any brand, I'll gulp it up. I like hiking mountains. I'm really attracted to being on the mountains. I just feel innately joyous. And I like thinking. I like setting aside time for thinking. I really enjoy that as a process, going to the first principles and applying it in real life. So that's a little bit about me. Now that that is out of the way, I just want to quickly set the outline for our talk today, right? This talk is not about servant leadership. It's there's a lot of literature out there. There is a lot of material out there. So I don't want to go into the details about servant leadership. It's not also just about tech leadership, right? Or I don't want to go into the details about what is so unique about the tech sector. I'll be touching upon it, but this talk is not just about that. It's not just about managing and creating results, though we do that on a daily basis as engineering leaders, as engineering managers. This talk is not just about results. I like to think that, this talk should be more about me sharing some of the tactics, some of the lessons that I have learned from my thought processes as I try to correlate some of the servant leadership principles to what I do on a daily basis. And I feel like if I can spark a thought process in you. And if you can take away a couple of thoughts away from this, then I would be very happy. So that's like the expectation of the talk. So I'm going to start off by telling you what I felt during the start of this journey for me. When I read about servant leadership and all the years, I'd spent about 10 years doing core backend systems work in my vocation. With these two mindsets, right? I felt like servant leadership in tech is a myth, because I was scared of coming across as soft if I started practicing this servant leadership mindset. But something inside me was very attracted to the concepts, and I'll tell you why in the next few slides. But as much as I was attracted to the style, I felt like I couldn't really inculcate this on a daily basis in my job. So I kept thinking, it's probably a myth, right? It was applicable in some of the other industries and some of the other sectors, but tech being a little unique, is it really possible to apply this on a daily basis? So we'll revisit this theorem or corollary towards the end. At this point of time, I'm curious, do we have any individual contributors in the room? And by individual contributors, I mean, you can be software engineers, senior staff engineers, tech leaders, like technical leaders, principal engineers, but you're not necessarily responsible for managing people. Do we have ICs in the room? Can we take a poll? Can we look at the chats? Can you share something there?
Yeah, go ahead and use the reactions button, reactions at the bottom, and put a thumbs up if you are an individual contributor. I am not, but I was just showing you how to do it. Okay, Bill
Yes,
Lennon.
That's a good idea.
And Doug in Reno had his thumb up, and Paul Buckley's. Thank you.
Yes,
Dejo,
yes.
Dejo.
So,
great.
So we do have some ICs in the room.
And
That's
Samantha.
great.
Oh, Samanthi also.
Oh, wow. Hey, this is great. This is great to know. The reason I asked this question is I like this variance, and I feel like, I hope you also find something to take away from this talk. I feel like this concept applies to anyone who wants to add more value, who wants to be great at what they're doing. So that's good to know. For the rest of my talk, knowing that in the back of my head really helps. And second question, is there anyone who's never heard of servant leadership? I was one of them a few years ago. So is there anyone who doesn't know anything about servant leadership?
And for this one, let's try a yes, no in the participant pane. Click on participants and then click yes if you've heard of servant leadership, or no if you have not heard of servant leadership. Yes, little green check mark, red X for no. And we'll see here, it looks like many people have. We've got a couple of people who are clicking no.
Okay, so there are a few people. Okay, so this gives a good understanding, right? So let's do this slide, which just very quickly talks about the first principles of servant leadership. So basically, there are 9 core principles that servant leadership touches upon. Basically, as a leader, can you inculcate that sense of community, that sense of belonging, that you're in it together? There is a team spirit. There are incentives to be a part of the team. As a leader, can you showcase empathy? Can you be persuading in the conversations that you're having with your stakeholders? How are your listening capabilities? Are you an effective listener? It's not just about being effective listener, right? Are you giving the sense to the audience that you're listening effectively? Are you taking notes? Are you taking actionable feedback on what you're listening? Are you giving the other person a sense of being heard? As a leader, do you have foresight? Can you think about ideas that are applicable in the future? Can you think about your team when they're not able to see their futures or what they are good at? Can you see that for them? Do you have that vision? Can you be a steward in difficult situations? Can you be that person who can push through friction? Sometimes in conflicting situations, maybe you need to diffuse the situation. You need to bring in that healing power. Maybe the team is hurt from a negative situation. Can you be that healer? And conceptualization, can you think about ideas which are good for the company, good for the business, good for the team, and take it to completion? And then the last one, and my favorite, are you self-aware? Are you using human anthropology to apply on a daily basis? How well do you know yourself? And maybe there's a pattern. If there are certain things that are so true for you, then maybe it's true for your other fellow human beings as well, right? So these are core principles. And then the effect of this should be that, your team should be able to display more mastery, ownership. They should be able to grow their talent and be more effective at work. How autonomous are they? Can they make good decisions, or are they always relying on you? Do you have to be in the room all the time to make decisions? Or can the people in your team act like leaders? Can they think for themselves and act on that? And then do they feel a sense of purpose? Can they map what they're working on to a higher purpose, to something which is of a bigger character? And all of us know that when we are invested in something, when we have a vested interest, we are so much better at it. So as a leader, can you facilitate all these things? That is what servant leadership really concentrates on. And it's really just about putting the team before you put yourself. And then when there is a danger that's threatening your team, let's say, can you provide that air cover for your team? Or even things like, can you think of sacrifice as a social contract that is necessary in leadership once in a while, right? We undervalue that a lot, but it's about being that person who can shoulder that responsibility as a leader. So these are the guiding principles of servant leadership. So Kimberly.
Can I add that I think it's so important right now to notice the importance of empathy, of listening, of healing, because I have spoken with big, strong, mostly men at the director level and above, who are anxious, they're worried, they're frightened, they're stressed out, and people, big, strong, professional men and women do not go to their managers and say, I'm worried, I'm anxious, I'm stressed out. But they are, and we have got to provide some healing and support for them, whether they say it or not.
That is such an excellent point. And, that reminds me, as leaders, what are we doing for our teams to feel safe and trusting, right? Can they propose their ideas and feel not feel like it will be ridiculed, or they'll be penalized for it? So that is what is about creating that safety and a sense of community in the team. And thank you for mentioning that. That's so relevant to this talk. So, I just wanted to talk about the core principles of servant leadership, because I'll be using this word a lot in the talk, and it's just good to set the tone and the context. So the next thing is, I talked about tech, right? What does it mean to be a leader in the tech sector? And I was thinking about, why you can't directly apply some of the principles that we talked about, which are relevant to servant leadership, directly to the tech sector. I thought about this, and this is not even an exhaustive list. There are many other reasons, but I feel like one of the reasons is that tech industry is still a very young industry. What, 100 years, maybe 150? But there are so many other industries which are older than that, right? Maybe the global politics, or if you look at the financial sector, if you look at the automobile industry, these are all old industries. And, the tech industry being a very young one, we're still figuring out what works for us and what doesn't work for us. The second thing is, much like my journey, mostly it's the individual contributors who end up becoming engineering managers, right? It's not like most of us did not go to MBA schools. We don't have degrees in management. We did not learn about leadership formally in schools. So at best, we are learning it on the job. So, I feel this is kind of unique to the tech industry and the pace at which it's going. It's very fast paced. Look at the scale that we are talking about, right? Probably humans have never solved problems at this scale ever before, arguably. And scale brings in another kind of problem, which is we're all trying to maximize with limited capacity. We're talking about billions and billions of data sets. And obviously, it poses a certain kind of problem: storage, commute, bandwidth, efficiency. We're all thinking about performance all the time, right? It's really what drives the tech economy. And going into a little bit of nitty-gritties, not a lot, if you look at today's delivery cycles, right? It's 2 hours, 3 hours, 6 hours. 6 hours is late. When we are talking about continuous integration, continuous deployment, the CI/CD kind of release cycles, deploy cycles, 1 day is late, right? If there is a bug, roll back, push it out, fix the bug in a couple of hours, push out the green build, right? That's how it works. Or even for the on-prem solutions, it's relatively fast-paced when you compare it with the other industries. Even for the on-prem, it's usually quarterly release cycles, and even that's late, right? So look at how we are thinking. It's so fast-paced, and most of us, I think, either have worked or are working or will work for small companies, startups, where there are not a lot of processes. There is no structure. Some companies don't even have a HR. There is no people operations team in some companies. So where is the time to think about empathy, self-awareness, or listening skills, or healing powers, right? And we are all scared we'll come across as soft. And it's a fine balance. So soft is not okay, social is okay. We have all categorically made such statements, right? Which brings me to my next point. At least I, as an engineering manager on a daily basis, what I'm doing or what I'm thinking about is results, right? I'm thinking about setting focused goals. I'm deciding, there's a situation, I need to make a decision. Do I employ the rapid decision-making style, or do I go for the traditional decision-making style? How much time do I have? When I'm leading a cross-functional project, it's about conflict resolution, resource allocation. I'm negotiating for the best resource from the other teams. I'm constantly looking for maximizing my performance, right? Because I know that I will be measured for the results I create. Or if there are proof of concept demos, right? How do I make sure that these POC demos that we do in startups, in mid-sized companies, don't affect my roadmap? How can I make sure my deliverables are going to be safe? Basically, I'm trying to put in a lot of efficiency in my execution processes. I want to make sure that my execution processes are so fine-tuned that I'm able to create results and maximize my performance. Because you know what? I will be measured for how much revenue did I help the company generate? What are the profit margins? How much market gaps did we close? Were we responsible for 10x innovation? How much tech debt did I knock out this release? And this is good. I'm the biggest proponent of results orientedness. I started this talk by saying I'm naturally very goal oriented, but I felt like this is all very good for the short term. I felt like being so results oriented has become the norm because it's easy to measure revenue. It's easy to measure performance. It's easy to measure profit margins, but it's so difficult to measure leadership. It's so hard to measure empathy, listening power, self-awareness. And especially in this cutthroat algorithmic world that we live in, it's all the more a far off thing to achieve, right? So in my head, I almost feel like these are two conflicting schools of thought. And I was at that cusp in my mind where I was like, wow, I really like the concepts of servant leadership, but what can I do to correlate it to the result orientedness? Can I still be results oriented and somehow practice servant leadership in my work? This is what was beginning to cook inside me. And I was very hopeful. So right at this point, I want to just have a quick discussion, maybe 2 to 3 minutes. What are your thoughts? Anyone who wants to speak about this? So we talked about the servant leadership principles. Why is the tech sector unique, and how being results oriented is really required out of us if we want to be successful and great leaders. Do you think this is an issue? Do you think what I'm thinking is a legit problem? Awesome, awesome. So, what did you guys think? Can we select one person per breakout room and maybe share some thoughts? That would be interesting.
Breakout room 1, Ashok, Mike Pivanin, Samanthi, and Tulasi. Any one of you four, can you speak to Ashok, Mike, Samanthi, Tulasi?
Yes, I mean, pretty much we were of the same opinion that it's slightly hard in the tech sector. It's more of a product manager attribute to be a servant leader, because that's the area where you can be of service and have that mentality and still deliver on time. And as she was talking about how cutthroat the deadlines are, but we were also in agreement with one of her points where however difficult it is, it's really important to empathize with your team. I mean, whichever way, in spite of having deadlines or whatever. So yeah, the time was really short. I think we just got like a line in and we came back to the main session. But so we are really curious to see how this talk ends. I don't know if it's a method.
All right, and thank you.
Thank you for that summary, Samanthi.
Breakout room 2 was Balki, Susan Swartz, and Kimberly.
This is Balki. Thank you, Mallika, for doing this. Really great topic. So we obviously ran out of time. Our general agreement was that servant leader works in almost every case, especially in a team setting. You can only be a servant to help the team succeed. One exception could be on an individual level. Servant leadership could only go so far, especially if they're having performance problems or whatnot. Coaching relationship could be a combination of servant and coaching. Some of it is from my personal experience.
Oh, that's great, Malki. Those are very good points.
Good ones, yeah.
Yep.
Breakout room 3, we have Bill, Chuck, Narendra, and Paul. Anyone want to speak?
Okay, I'll go. I think servant leadership is the only way to go, just because my experience has been that it's possible from that role to really help a team improve their throughput as a semi-disinterested third party. And that's, if you're talking about results, when a good servant leader can improve the code throughput of a team by 20 or 30 or 40%, then the executives just nod their head and say, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. Because you're proving that it works, right? If you can't do that, then you probably need to back up and figure out what skills are missing. But I'm like, I wouldn't do anything but servant leadership at this point in time.
Wow, thank you, Bill. That was very articulate. Thank you.
Breakout room 4 had Bell and Mallika and Mayur. Bell or Mayur? Anyone?
Oh, I thought we were 7. All right, never mind. So yeah, we talked about how the underlying principles of servant leadership align very well with the best principles of leadership in general, and that it's a fabulous model. My question is whether software is really so special. Most of the challenges you listed on your slide, if you delete CI/CD, apply to any industry. And so I would say both ways. If it works elsewhere, it should work in software, because the challenges that you describe are challenges for any industry.
No, those are some great thoughts, good critical thoughts as well. So thank you for that, Bell.
And breakout room 5 had Alex, Jeff, Casper, and Ron.
Oh, I guess I'll jump in. We pretty much, like everyone else, ran out of time, but agreed that there really is no other way but use the servant leadership, largely because that's it's the way to motivate people and achieve results. And we were pretty unanimous in the first probably 30 seconds of, of our discussion. Then we kind of dived into a little bit more of how do we deal with performance issues on the team, and that's a slightly different topic than this. But you rely on the team members on your Scrum teams to bring that to your managers, and but ultimately, servant leadership is the really only way to be successful.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Breakout room 6. I got Michael, Paul, Surgeon, and Teo.
Well, maybe I can mention something that didn't come up yet. We also ran out of time that came up. So I think what I found interesting was that that came up was that even if you're a servant leader, if the power relationships are very strong or there's a big gap, that might be a challenge. So even if you're a servant leader, but you have the capability to fire people, it might make things challenging. We didn't have time to dig into that anymore, but I found it interesting. Did you, Paul, have anything else to add, maybe?
Did we yeah, please continue.
Paul?
I was just going to say that thinking in terms of inverting the hierarchy or like turning it upside down, that's one of the things that the servant leadership model does, I think. So you're not thinking of yourself as being above the people who are under you in the hierarchy. You're thinking you're supporting them, you're underneath them, really. So that helps to work against some of the negative effects of the hierarchy, I think.
And finally, breakout room 7, Denny, John in Monterey, and Leon.
Yeah, this is Leon and John and Danny. Well, delegated me to ask a question that we were discussing because I came up with this question. And it's, first of all, thank you, Mallika, for having this discussion. And did you have a chance to look at what I wrote?
Actually, I'm just checking. I was so busy listening to you guys. I'm going to check my chat now. Why don't you tell us?
I mean, we corresponded through Meetup site.
Yes. We strive to ensure.
Okay. Anyway, just briefly, I wrote recently based on my experience working in larger organizations, and larger means more than 500 people. 1,000 people for sure. They don't need to be really large. But I think that most of them are suffering from so-called Adams Judge syndrome.
Oh, yes. Yes. You sent me that documentation, and that's a detailed one. And if you want, we can take it offline. I'm happy to do this offline as well.
Yeah, I can send actually a link through the chat for everybody to take a look. I will be very happy to receive your feedback. But the main idea is that because of the problems with problem-solving and decision-making networks in those organizations, people feel helpless at some point. They feel helpless really to do a good job. They feel helpless to achieve the stated mission of the company. And then it changes to pretty much survival. And then the main result that every person at any level of hierarchy is looking for is to have their boss happy.
Yes, no, that's a very good. In fact, I think I'm going to touch upon that in the next few slides, and you might be interested to see how this proceeds. So, did you have anything to add? Otherwise, I'll just proceed on with the slide deck, and maybe we can have a few more discussions after a couple of slides again.
If I may just throw in one idea about what keeps the boss happy. And servant leader, I guess, will help their team to achieve this goal. So it's pretty cynical, but somebody formulated it like that, that if you want to survive in a company, if you want to be promoted, if you want to go up, you have to reap the weak and share with the strong. Take advantage of those below you and share the benefits that you derive with those above you.
No, that's an excellent. Yeah, that's an excellent thought. Thank you for sharing that. I would like, we should continue this maybe in the networking session as well. And just to continue with the talk, that's what I wanted to say. I'm so happy to see that consensus. And that's how I started thinking about it as well. For me, when I started inculcating this in my work every day, much like what most of you said, I started thinking about it as creating value for my stakeholders, right? It's about, if I really thought about it, I was responsible for the people who were creating these results for me, who were adding value to the business. Can I do something better for my people? Can I really be there? Can I do something better every day? Can I just bring more value to all my stakeholders? It could be marketing, product, the other functional units in engineering that I might be working with, mainly my team, my direct reports, right? So that's how I started thinking about it as value leadership. Because when I started thinking about it that way, it was actually measurable. I could measure value pretty much on a weekly basis. So how did this happen, right? Now I promised tactics in this talk. So I just want to talk about a few things that most of us do as frontline managers on a daily basis. Talk about what is it that we want to achieve. And then I want to share how I bring that service mindset on a daily basis when I go to work. So the next few slides are around that. And then I'm going to do 2 or 3 of these, and maybe we can open it up to the floor for a couple so that we can have more discussions. Starting with planning, road mapping, and scoping, right? Most of us as frontline managers are responsible for setting goals, doing effective road mapping so that whatever we deliver stays relevant for the business. So if I think about it, the results-oriented part of it is to set focused goals, have good commit goals versus stretch goals, form kind of a framework. I really like OKRs, but it could be the SMART framework, right? Where the leader is thinking about setting specific goals, keeping the goals measurable, aligned with the rest of the product and business strategy. Are your goals reachable? Can they be achieved by the team that you have? And mainly they should be time bound. So any framework that you use, we are interested in being effective as planners or in setting these goals. And how do we manage tech debt versus product driven features, right? This is something that I do release after release. So what I also do these days is assess the stress levels of the team. This is bringing the service mindset to me. It's simple, but it just required a perspective change for me. Am I taking a good measure of where my team is? The goals that is being set, is my team having the capacity to do it? Are there gaps? Are there weaknesses that I should be thinking about from my conversations, from one-on-ones, weekly meetings? Can I think about the person as a whole? Can I revisit the stress levels? Because otherwise, if I'm always setting aggressive maps, right, then at some point of time, my team's going to get burnt out, and it's going to affect the long-term deliverability of my team and my success as a manager. The other thing that I think about is can I keep in mind the aspirations and needs of my team? My team is, all the team members are, my direct reports are telling me where is it that they want to go? What is their motivation? Who are they? What really drives them at this point of time in their lives? Can I use that so that I can put them on the right tasks? Can I have 2 results in one shot, right? Like definitely we are doing the tasks and we are achieving our goals, but we are also satisfying the aspirations for the team. Then the other thing is, especially in the planning stage, it's very easy for me to think about service mindset, my product team and my team for whom I'm responsible for. Because the product management team is really wanting me to effectively map that product roadmap to an engineering roadmap so that we all have the same outcome out of it. So there are various opportunities to show the service mindset on a daily basis, right? And just understanding that just having more goals on your Jira user stories doesn't mean that you are more productive, but are you delivering consistently over the long term? So one of the key highlights in this process for me is valuing individuality, thinking about, really genuinely thinking about the people on my team as whole people. So, you know, this is Oh, seems like I lost some of the chat history.
Okay,
Sorry.
so say one person said managing up is only one of 3 directions to be concerned about. And Ron said, depends on the company culture. Some toxic company cultures reward managing up only. And he recommends not working for those companies. There are a few other, and I will repaste some of this so you can.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, okay. But any comments about that? I mean, the fish rots from the head, I like to say.
Makes me think of those C-levels. Yes, no, it's even more harder when this is not supported as a perspective from the company, right? Because believe it or not, like I have seen this happen where how much ever we like talking about this concept, it's really sometimes hard to practice it on a daily basis because the management philosophies might be different inside the company, because it's just so fast paced. If you don't generate that much revenue or if the engineering teams are not helping get to those results, it's not where the company wants to go. So yeah, consciously or subconsciously, especially in the smaller companies, sometimes it's hard. Like one of you pointed out, right? It's not a given that you can practice this. And very true, managing up is just one direction. There are so many alliances one needs to build inside the company. There are so many stakeholders, and it's about building a good social capital, right? Can you be right again and again and again so that you're building those brownie points? And guess what? You're going to need it sometime down the line, and use it carefully, right? Spend it on the right things. That's really social. And what you're doing during those times is you're managing your relations. You are really actively playing a role in how you can be more effective. You can do certain things, you can't do certain things, but with the variables that you have, can you make that equation stronger? So I love it. I love that comment. Keep those coming, keep those coming. I don't want to miss this. I want to keep it. And as you guys are doing that, I'm just going to continue to just one more such concept, right? So if I come back to my presentation, hopefully this is playing. So yeah, valuing individuality. So I hope I was somewhere here, right? Bringing the service mindset to the planning, road mapping and scoping stage, so that you can really make the team be part of the process, as if they're really part of the team. One of the other things I'm super passionate about is this feedback, coaching, and mentoring cycles. So I'll do this one so that it sets a pattern in your minds, and then maybe we can do the next few together. So when I want to share good feedback with my team members, even with some of the other peer engineering managers, with the stakeholders, especially reports, what am I trying to do, right? If I want to share a critical feedback because I see a gap, I see a learning opportunity, and I want to be more effective. I want the team to be more effective. Let's say I'm seeing a gap in the impact or the expertise. I want to share that with the team and course correct quickly so that they can bring more effectiveness in their tasks. I'm caring about feature velocity. You know, how much code are we committing? How far are we from completing the sprint? How is our sprint looking? Do we have any must fix? I want to avoid underperformance, right? That's what feedback sessions are for, or coaching. You want to catch it early so that you can avoid it. And in the worst cases, if it happens, then how quickly can you get them around? Can you turn them around? For all this, what am I doing? I'm looking at the performance metrics. I'm looking at user stories, Kanban charts, sprint charts. I'm looking at my team's pull requests. How quickly are they getting merged? What kind of code review comments are they getting? Are people spending a lot of time on your code review? Are you being very requiring in terms of time from your team when your code review is going on? So this is the goal, right, out of feedback and coaching. What I also do these days is I like to really be curious about my team members, you know, just thinking about if I'll give you an example. So recently, we have a very heavy unit test driven culture. For every pull request code that you're merging into master, you're supposed to write unit tests and integration tests, and only then can you really merge your stuff to master. But this one person thought it was okay and it was time bound, and he merged it. So I was really curious when I had some feedback for him. The feedback was that, hey, we can't really merge pull requests without having unit tests and integration tests, right? But I was really curious why he thought it was okay when it's the company's culture. Why did he think for this one time it was okay for him to merge this pull request? I wanted to understand the complete story. And then I mapped my feedback to where he was coming from. I made it contextual, and I gave him some more purpose, right? I gave him some more idea. I explained why it is important for us to not afford doing such things. What is the ill effects of bad practices in programming? Where can it come and bite us? How does it affect the product? And just being a little bit more empathetic in the way you deliver the feedback. Or even things like, can you show them more meaning in their work? Can you make it worth it to be better at work? Can you make them care about being a better version of themselves? Can you influence them, right? And then one thing that I like to do is I really like to own up my feedback. If I have a feedback, I say, hey, I think this is my observation. This is what we should be doing. What are your thoughts? I don't like to say things like, I think the company wants us to be this, my manager wants us to be this, this is what my boss thinks is a general good practice. Own up the feedback. I don't like to think that feedback is criticism, right? Or coaching and mentoring is not teaching. We are not high school students. Coaching and mentoring is about changing perspectives, giving new ideas, showing a new perspective, so that without coming across as authoritative, you're influencing the other person to bring a better version to work every day. So as an idea, what I'm using on a daily basis over here is, can I listen more effectively? Can I show more empathy? Can I be more inclusive? Can I think about my team as a whole? Those are some of the practices that I can do. So feedback and coaching, again, great places to show servant leadership, right? It's just about a small switch in the mindset. At this point of time, I want to hear some thoughts that are going on. Yes, we have globally distributed teams, comfortable with servant leaders. Oh, this is a great point. Yeah, because engagement is such a hard thing to do. I don't know, it makes it harder. As such, I think it's difficult for engineers to engage the team with remote teams, with globally distributed teams, especially with varying cultures, varying geographical boundaries, right? How do you keep the team engaged? Can you form a common language for the team to speak? Can you think about creative ways to bring the team together? One of the things that we used to do when I used to work very closely with the Saratov team in Russia was we would, as soon as we would come in, we would just say a greeting, and whenever you would leave office or whenever you would go offline, we would just say bye and leave a note. We would do more of those virtual happy hours, virtual book clubs, just to build that camaraderie, right? You need to go out of the way to engage the team. I'm sure this is one of the challenges for meetup hosts as well. How do you keep the sense of belonging and community going? And that's crucial for good teams. So that's a great point. To be successful as a servant leader with distributed teams that are culturally diverse. Oh, this is another topic. I would like to hear more thoughts on this. I'm not an expert on distributed teams. I've never led one, though I have dealt on smaller capacities now and then. But that's a beautiful topic. I do have some opinions on that. I just don't know if they're super effective. But thanks for that thought. Own up the feedback. Yeah, I like it. I don't like to hear when someone says, oh, you know what, the company wants you to do that. Who's the company? I report to you. I care what you think of me, right? So feedback, owning the feedback is really important. Listening and being more empathetic are the center of humble inquiry. Oh, that's Leon. That's a great thought too. Wow, keep those coming. I want to do a quick time check. How are we doing with time, Ron, Kimberly?
Should 4 more minutes, and then we're going to have to wrap up, and we'll take a break between this and the 6:45 start of our next.
So 5 more minutes.
Got it. Yeah, so let's 5 more minutes. Good to know. So let's do this. So I had a few more slides which followed suite, right? Developing the team's collective intelligence, or even thinking about servant leadership in the context of cross-functional leadership, when you're leading cross-functional projects, or when you're giving out rewards and recognition. How can you be more mindful and thoughtful? What is the message that you're sending when you're doing these things? I'm going to share the slide deck, and we will make this available for anyone who's interested. But just to kind of, wrap it up and take it to completion, I agree with most of you in the room. That's where I am today. I love being results oriented. That's who I am. My execution processes are tuned towards that. But I really like to bring that mindset of service. It should be coming from a service approach. It's still, the what is still the same. You're creating results, you're adding value, but how you do it really matters. And I think it was Maya Angelou who said, right, people will never forget how you made them feel. And when the push comes to shove, and when things are going south, what will save you is the people. So, be mindful of who is creating that value for you, right? It's the people. And I think we should take care of them. So as an ending thought, I think it's a reality. It should be a reality, like most of you said. And the asterisk is really you, right? Is that a style that you like? Is that what you want to do? Do you want to be a great leader? And especially assuming, we all want to have a long and successful career, the networking aspect is really important. How do you want to be remembered? You will change jobs. 4 years from now, you'll be working at a different company. Will people want to come and work for you as a leader? That's what we should be going after, right? To think of leadership as a long-term activity, and not just as a short-term approach towards creating results. So it's definitely my reality today. It's becoming more and more realistic as the day passes. So I would say that, the asterisk is always you and where you want to take it. So you'll still get those results. You'll still get the revenue. People will want to work for you. It'll probably be more stabler, right? You'll have long-term effects. and what we are all after, which is creating that high performance culture. The founding stone for that really rests in bringing leadership as a service. So it's about creating those results, providing it as a service, and that's when I think we will maximize the value. Because this is, I think, a great ending thought. I really feel like leadership cannot be that high intensity spike, right? It's not about delivering this one release or one product. It's about a consistent habit. What are you doing on a daily basis? Who are you as a consistent person, which makes you a great leader? And that's what I want to be. That's what I aspire to be. And I must say, like, the servant leadership mindset is serving me really, really well. I'm learning, and I want to, keep this discussion going. You're a fantastic group. I just hope you have my email, ping me on LinkedIn, message me on this meetup group. I'm always available to continue this discussion. And of course, we have this networking session now, so I'm definitely looking forward to it. Last thought, I have to express my deep gratitude to Kimberly and Ron, because they are the warmest people I know, and also to our sponsors today. This group is just fantastic. I really, really hope, we survive for 1,000,000 years. This is a great meetup group. Thank you. Thank you so much,
Thank
guys.
you. Woo! Unmute yourself for a wild applause. Yay!
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.